Well, hello, ladies. How are y'all?
Hey,
Good. How are you?
How's y'all week go?
good, good.
Oh, so far, so good. Love your hair.
Thank you. Well, welcome to this week's episode of Women's World, and I'm excited to get to talking about some juicy topics. So my first question, what did you all think about the debate between our vice president and our vice presidential candidate? Any thoughts?
I liked it. I didn't watch the presidential debate. I just caught the clips afterwards. But I made it a point to watch this one just because it was, history, and I wanted to support Kamala. So I was frustrated a lot with, I could tell that they were both trying to make sure that this was not as disastrous as the first one, as the presidential debate. But it was still frustrating because a lot of questions weren't answered. So, and I don't think that Vice President Pence was as respectful of the time. So that was really frustrating for me. Quite a few times my husband and I would look away or just get up and walk away for a few minutes and then come back. But I loved the faces that she was making. I just felt like she was my auntie. When she would give the side eye or those faces, because I was making the same one. So I really enjoyed that. I just really felt like I was represented on the screen.
Some of the commentary afterwards is as interesting or more interesting than the debate themselves. And it was so fascinating to listen to some of the comments because Women's World was hitting on so many cylinders that they were talking about as far as how the debate went and how they felt Kamala had to hold back because she didn't want to be viewed as the angry Black woman. And I'm like, man, this thing is pervasive. It really, we can't be ourselves. We have to be a shell of ourselves in order not to offend or whatever. And that bothers me that that even exists, that she felt like she could not just, be all in and be herself. The prosecuting attorney, I think she's a prosecutor or was a prosecutor, the prosecuting attorney that she's used to be, she had to kind of play that down.
I was really proud though when she kind of checked him because he was questioning her, her history, and the moderator tried to move on, but she was like, no, he is attacking, me. And so I was really proud that she didn't let that one go. She was letting a lot go, but I was really proud that she did not let that go.
Yeah, I think she held her own in many instances. I was very, very proud of the way she handled herself because she wanted to be respected, and he wasn't trying to do that. And so, yeah, she definitely did a good job of putting him in check.
I agree. Going to both of you all's points, I think that over time we have perfected our nonverbal facial expressions for that simple fact. The playing field already are so uneven because we've seen how disrespectful he was and how he was able to just easily get away with it, where she wasn't nearly, she had to be even more respectful than he was and hold back. And yet a lot of people still viewed it as her being disrespectful. So
Yeah.
you're never going to, and even, this is kind of off topic a little bit, but to go further with the point, the same thing with Michelle's speech that she gave at the DNC. And everybody was like, oh, I wish she was more forceful. And it's like, no, she couldn't have been, because then her message would have completely got blocked. And, it would have just been, oh, the angry Black woman trope once more. So I was extremely proud of how Kamala handled herself. I thought that her nonverbal cues said a lot. and did justice. And I felt that she was even a little bit more forceful. She was more forceful than Joe was. Like, definitely. I was trying to say a little bit to give but, and I think that she, if any doubt of her being uneducated were there, she has definitely dispelled those in a respectful and tactful manner. So I was happy. What about you?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no. What were you going to say?
Did you guys feel like she had to kind of like, she was obviously, representing herself, but also the moderator? Because like with some of her nonverbal cues, like obviously she's representing women, but also Black women. And I felt like with Pence, he was being disrespectful because he constantly going over the time and interrupting her. And I could see like Kamala's face is kind of giving empathy to the moderator because like he's going over the time and being rude, and she would be kind of like, okay, like making those faces. So I felt bad for the moderator too, more so than for the presidential debate, because like everyone knew what we were getting into with this second one after seeing the first one. I felt bad for the moderator, and I felt like she was also empathetic to the moderator where he wasn't.
Do you think that had a lot to do with the fact that these were females and he didn't feel as much of a need to respect them?
I think so.
Yeah. Alicia, you had commented on the facial, I think you were the one that commented on the facial expressions. Do you think those are something that exclusively ours, Black women? Do you think we're the ones, do you think women have mastered those, or do you think Black women have mastered those?
I think that women in general have mastered. However, I think that Black women have mastered it to a whole nother level. Like, there's just, from a personal standpoint, I've been in situations where a coworker who is not Black could give a child a look, and that child not nothing, and I would give a child a look, and that child has never met me before and will know exactly what that look means, will do exactly what I meant when I gave that child that look. I don't care what race that child is. It could be Arabic, Hispanic, Asian, Black, white, like across the board. And I'd even be shocked sometimes, like, oh, they knew what they meant?
Yeah.
Like, well, Lord.
It's true.
So,
It's true. I was in Hobby Lobby yesterday, and there was a little boy, he's probably like 7, going off on his mom. And they walked past our aisle, and he looked down where we were, and I just looked at him, and he stopped. He stopped, and he was like, well, I'm not moving. But he stopped, like, fussing at his mom. Like, once we made eye contact, I was like, yeah, not up in here.
He thought he was about to whip him. That's what it was.
That's part of that Black girl magic. That's Black woman magic.
but in all honesty, if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. Like, if we had to reprimand our children, or if our children were acting out of kilter, that's not the word I'm looking for, but wasn't behaving in the manner in which they were expected to, and we knew that, we had to non-verbally give our children those, cues, so that master didn't follow up with consequences. So I think that over time, our people have had to master nonverbal cues in a way that other races have not.
And also on the flip side, we were wet nurses to their kids. So they kind of know, even though they don't want to give that respect, they know it's in them as well.
Perfect point.
I think her face expressions was everything. I was like, wow. I didn't catch it, but I caught some of the clips after, and I was just like, she was kind of reading him with her eyes, and he didn't even see that. But and then also The Fly.
The Fly was actually a star.
And everything.
I thought it was on my TV at first. Like, and then I was like, I wonder if anybody else is seeing this. And then I went on Facebook. Sure enough, wasted not a second.
Everybody said they was hitting their TV. And I was dying laughing at that. And I said, that was Trump on his head. He was the fly. That was Trump. He was sitting on his head.
But it was almost like that fly was paid. I mean, it was strategic.
It was there, yeah.
And he just
he went after the fly.
No, actually, it was a female fly. She just sat there.
I mean, who's on his team? There wasn't anybody that could give him a cue or like a, anything like.
No, they want him to look stupid.
And then his eyes. Did y'all see how red?
Oh, yes.
I was like,
he got pink eye or something.
Now, I thought there was something wrong with my TV then. Or, yeah, I said.
Like, is that discoloration? Like,
I know.
Maybe he's tired.
What did you all think about his take on systemic racism and the lack thereof?
It angers me that white people are in denial about this. They refuse to accept that this is real. It's been real for a long time. This is not new. But in a way, I think they don't want to acknowledge it, because then if they acknowledge it, then they have to perhaps do something about it or address it. And then that interferes with whatever it is that their agenda is overall. And someone said, yes, this is systemic, but it's not because the system is broken. This is exactly the way the system was designed to function. So it's functioning optimally. We need to do something about it, though, to redirect this systemic issue. But because it's systemic, it's going to be very difficult.
Yeah, and I think like when those questions are posed, like I sat there and held my breath, but I don't know why, because I didn't expect him to say anything other than what he said. But I think like a small piece of me is holding out hope. But like Teresa said, it's just once they admit it, because you think like what's the harm? Like everyone knows black and white, wrong is wrong, so why can't you just say it? But that means you're going to have to start answering for things that are done and being done, and then fix them. And so,
and stop benefiting to the extent
yes,
to which you do.
That's the one. That's the part. Because it's easy to say, yes, we messed up, but then you won't admit that you're benefiting from these things.
And it's like Black Lives Matter. I don't know, it's something about that phrase or whatever that I don't know. I don't understand why people don't, or pretend they don't get the meaning of that. Surely they understand that we're not saying that other lives don't matter. It's just our lives are the ones that are in jeopardy right now.
Right.
So that's why it's important that our issues be dealt with, be acknowledged, first of all, and then be dealt with. But that phrase, it's something about that term of phrase or whatever that white people just seem to, they just can't get beyond it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's a sense of them probably feeling like that we feel like we are more important than them. And they don't like that.
So should we have said, and this is not an original thought, but should we have said Black Lives Matter too? Or Black Lives Matter also? With that, not that we need to water it down. We shouldn't water it down at all. But I'm just wondering, would they have been able to deal with it better?
I don't think so. I think they still gonna look at it the same way.
Right.
I agree. It was definite. Sorry, go on.
Oh, you're fine. I was just going to say, just in the same way that they have these families and these children in these in the ICE detention centers, like that is wrong, right? Like that is inhumane, but they somehow find a way to justify it, right? and these are people's babies that are in these cages and just being treated horribly, but they found a way to justify it. Even though there's footage, you see these kids and these families here, you hear these stories, but they have found a way to justify these are criminals, they shouldn't be here, X, Y, and Z. It's just, no, we don't need to include two, because they would have found something with that too.
I wholeheartedly agree. I don't think it's the wording at all. To me, it doesn't matter what words we put in front of it. No matter what it is with a Black issue, it's always hijacked in some type of way. The agenda is always convoluted and twisted and just made into something else across the board. And I think that goes back into the indoctrination of racism that America was built on. It didn't go anywhere. It just became covert. And in a lot of ways, the Band-Aid has been ripped off. And the wound is clearly still there. It's still open. It's still fresh. And people are still benefiting from the thing. So to me, until we really talk and get down to the root of the issue, and until white people specifically, are able to admit the past, talk about it openly, and then talk about ways to move forward on an equal level, a truly equal level, where everyone has the same benefits, I think that our movements are going to continue to be hijacked.
Mm-hmm. What do you think it's going to take what do y'all think it's going to take to make that change happen?
That's a great question.
I just wonder, because we've been discussing this for years, but we never really seem to get but so far. And then a lot of people will say, white people will say, oh, well, you had a Black president. You've arrived. Racism is over. There's no problem with it. They say things like that. And okay, so they felt like, okay, our work is done here.
I think that a lot of it has to change with the people that are in power. You know, like segregation was not that long ago. The people that are in power right now were in power when these laws and different things were established that were definitely not to benefit us. And they're still in those positions. So I think that them aging out and the younger crowd that we have that more information and the education, the better rounded education of what our history is in this country, go into those positions, is when we will really see that change that we need.
I agree with Andrea. I think for me, it starts with education. If I don't know, it's easy for you to tell me whatever. And it creates this false sense of pride in something that is foundationally wrong. Until we can change that, I don't think the mindset will ever change. And it's 400 years is a long time. So it's going to take, to me, that and then some to reverse the psychological remnants
You mean
of
like another
everything.
400 years?
Yes.
Wow.
Like, I don't see it. I don't think that I'll ever see it in my lifetime to where it's completely eradicated. If I have children, I don't think it'll be in their lifetime or my grandchildren's lifetime. My hope is that it will continually get better, but to completely say, the work is done, I don't, it's going to take time. It's taken years to get us to this, point. It was 1960 when the civil rights movement happened. So
Somewhere around there,
that
yeah.
was,
I don't know. I
that was
can't remember. I
about,
think it started in the 50s, but some of the more progress was made in the 60s.
So about 60 years ago, right? Is my math correct? Yep. So about 60 years ago is when we, started making the change. And I'll admit, growing up, I was like, I used to think that the civil rights was a long time ago. Until I would talk to like people like my grandparents and, my parents. And I was like, wait, y'all lived through segregation? But to me, I was just like, oh, they're just old. Like, as a kid, that time, like, you think it was a long time ago. So I was like, well, for me, I didn't go through that. Look how far we've come. It's great. We're all living together. And now I'm almost 30 and I'm like, oh, people that I grew up with, I see a different side. I don't think that it's anything new. I think that it's always been there. It's just conversations that were had behind closed doors are now being had in the open. Instead of like hoods are being taken off, essentially, I use as an analogy. And people, especially now with him in office, have felt a lot more comfortable to voice how they truly feel. And so for me, I think it's been extra hard to swallow because it's the reality that yes, we have made a lot of difference and we have come far, but not nearly as much as I had thought.
And speaking of what you're saying about people feeling emboldened to exhibit these racist things, I just lost my train of thought, but for example, Whitmer in Michigan, she was being threatened by the militia that was going, they had detailed this plot of how they were going to take her, kidnap her, have some type of hearing. It's Whitmer, I think, in Michigan, the governor of Michigan, the militia. Yeah.
Yes,
so
I did
it's
see,
like,
yep.
Yeah, it's like these people have I don't know where they've been. I guess they felt that they couldn't make a move, but now that we have this president in the White House, they feel now that they can do these things, and so it's very scary. I know the point I was going to make is with these militias, though. Some of these people are, these people are young. They're young. That's why I'm worried. At what point do enough people die out with these ideologies that create this atmosphere? I'm just wondering, because the stuff is still being passed down. Because the guys that they showed on TV, these were young guys. I'd venture to say maybe late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah, they were young.
Rittenhouse was 17.
Yeah.
17.
So, you're right, Alicia. It's going to take a long time. A long time.
And I think conversations like this, as people continue to educate themselves, and they continue to change their mindset, and they continue to teach their children the correct way, then over time we can get to that point, but it's just going to take time. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, what were you going to say, Stephanie? Were you going to make a point?
No, I was just saying, yeah, they were young. I think it's just going to take, like you said, for us to hear conversations, and sometimes it just takes for people to just break down and just talk to us and see how we feel and what we have been through in order for them to even have any sympathy and to say, I didn't look at things this way, or I didn't know that you're going through this, and I'm sorry, and I want to change. I don't want to be like, it takes for some people to actually hear what we have experienced in life as being Black in order for them to realize what we've dealt with. And they haven't even dealt with half of the stuff that we have been through. So it's just we got to do more talking, more conversation, and you'd be surprised of the people who actually are curious about, you know, how we feel, what we think, and what we have experienced. So it's basically, like you said, more talk.
Yeah, and I
They
think
got to keep hearing more of us.
yeah, I think everyone, to your point, Teresa, everyone's narrative is different, right? And you're going to educate yourself and teach your kids based on your experience and what you want to come. And I think that more of the majority cares about the truth versus what they've been told. So like, I think now, as you know, of course, parents are still going to teach their kids what they think and what they believe. But like with our kids, of course, we say, you know, this is what we think, but you choose what you want. If you think that we're wrong, that's fine. You still live in this house. But, you know, if your opinion is different than ours, that's fine too. But you can be respectful and about it. And we can have a conversation, but we're not going to be disrespectful. And I certainly think that, you know, thinking about my grandmother raised me, and I remember some of the stories that she would tell me about when she worked in the bank in New York too, just about conversations that would be had and certain things that you didn't say and didn't do. And I certainly feel like in my professional settings, I definitely see where my non-people of color employees, friends, coworkers are more curious about the truth, history, and my feelings and my experience. So I do see that we are gravitating towards a better world, but I also think we do have a long way to go. It's just, I do see us questioning things more and really trying to get to, well, this doesn't really make sense. You know, I certainly had friends growing up where I wasn't allowed to go over to their house because I was Black, and that was it. There was no more conversation about that and other things, you know, when I was in like elementary school, middle school. But now, you know, I see people my age and younger going off on their parents and grandparents and straight up calling them racist and calling them out on things. And I'm happy to see that because, you know, I remember talking to my grandmother about some things that I thought she had a little mixed up, you know, because we've progressed, but I was respectful, you know, I'm not trying to get slapped or anything, but it's just, we're progressing and I see it. So I have hope.
Jatan, do you have any, welcome Jatan. And do you have any thoughts on anything that we've discussed thus far, or any thoughts of the debate?
I agree with so many points that have already been said. I do think we have such a long way to go. My thoughts on the debate, and I'm sorry I missed the first part of the conversation. I thought that the moderator could have been a little stronger. I feel like they need a Black woman as a moderator for the next debate. Somebody that'll actually, since we come off as being angry and aggressive, they should have a pool of us to choose from to get in there and kind of lay down the law and have these people stick to the time limits, to not being interrupted, you know, the rules that are already set forth before they get up there and start speaking. But I don't know if I know the latest. I don't know if there's another presidential debate or not, because 45 wants to do its own thing. So, but as far as the racism conversation and the fact that Pence wouldn't acknowledge that there is systemic racism in the country, I just thought that it was expected, but I really wish that they could have dug a little bit deeper into that question. So
I was also irritated by the name dropping. I was irritated by the name dropping, like when they were talking about like Breonna Taylor and, you know, like just, oh, I spoke to, you know, Princess.
You know, the thing that bothered me when he made a comment about Breonna Taylor, and when he was asked if he believed that justice was served, he said, you know, something about our hearts and prayers out to her family, or something. He was trying to be empathetic, I guess. And then he goes, but all that you just said before that, no, and void. You just negated that when you turned around and said, but our justice system did what it would. No, sir, the justice system did not do what it was supposed to do. And that right there really kind of stuck out to me as him just being out of touch, insensitive, and then just wanting to rewrite the narrative in his head.
He said a lot of words and didn't say anything at the same time.
He did. That was a great way to put it.
She stated, she's like, I spoke to her mother, and you know, it was very like genuine. And then he kind of tried to jump on it, but said so many words that just made me feel worse about what he was saying. Like, you should have just yes or no and moved on.
Right.
Agreed. So to go ahead and use that as a segue into our next segment, what do you all think is like the best course of action to help promote voting? Because this is definitely an election that we need people to get out and do their civic duty.
That's a tough one, because some of the stuff that I've still been seeing on social media, I get it. We have basically two parties. There is a third-party independent woman that I don't know anything about.
Joe Jorgensen?
Yes. Some of the comments that I see are just disheartening. It's like, well, you know, people don't feel like Biden or Harris can do anything or change anything, and they bring up their past records, which I understand is important. However, there is no way that I can let my absence be a plus for Trump. Like, I can't let that happen. Do I think Joe Biden is the best candidate? I don't. Do I think that now's the time to give my vote to a third party that won't have enough steam to actually win? I don't. So I am voting non-Trump. It's not that I'm, 1,000% behind Joe Biden, but I am 100,000,000% non-Trump. And I don't know how to get others to at least vote non-Trump.
I think we need to try and educate people on what voting or not voting actually means, because I don't think some people understand the level of impact that these things have on them, because people live day to day and they're thinking, okay, number 45 or whomever is in the White House, they're doing this, that, or the other, and it doesn't really impact me on a day-to-day basis. But it does, because like with the Supreme Court designations, these affect rulings, these affect policy, and this trickles down to the lower courts, where it ultimately will affect each and every one of us. But I don't think, and again, it goes, somebody else had said on an earlier episode that we need to not just vote for the presidential election, we also need to vote local and state elections as well, because all of this impacts us, maybe not immediately, but at some point it will impact us. So I think it's important that people understand why staying at home is not an option.
Yeah, and make a not so educated statement to that point, Teresa, where people say it doesn't affect me. What if everything goes to shit and the president is able to make those decisions? Wouldn't you want someone who you trust a little bit more in office than the alternative? Uneducated comment of the day.
And what the number 45 has done has impacted us, particularly with COVID. I truly blame him for a lot of the deaths. He did not act. He has not set a good example for us. So yes, having someone in power that we can trust what they say, and we can trust that what they have, what they're doing and saying, it's in our best interest, not because they have some political agenda or an ego to appease. They need to have our best interest at heart.
Everyone's best interest, not just their party states.
Yeah, and I think kind of called them out on that too. which I really appreciated her basically
Mhm.
just, y'all lied, and there's proof.
Mhm.
And even still, he found a way to kind of cover it up and say, well, we didn't want to cause panic, you know.
And did you notice the way he tried to turn it around? And that made me so angry. I wanted to go through the TV because she was saying she was angry about the way Trump handled it. He tried to twist it like she was angry about the way the American people handled the COVID. So it was a very dirty kind of mind trick that he was trying to play with, not so much with her, but with the American people.
Well, I think when they first found out about it, it was in October of last year. And had they took action then, we wouldn't be going through what we're going through now. It could have been a lot of prevention. It could have been a lot of stuff that was brought to the attention of everybody. And we could have did what a lot of the other places did, shut down and prevented it being spread more. But now we got to deal with a second wave coming in because they didn't do what they should have done. But he knew about it last year. I think it was October, I want to say, when they first brought it to his attention. I believe it was October.
He also should not have dismantled the organization that was put in place to stay on top of pandemics and things like that. But that's what happens when you have somebody that doesn't have a political or administrative background that you elect in the office because you think it's cute and funny and shit. And we sitting here 200,000 people dead because he won't let his reality star narcissistic personality go for the sake of the interest, the livelihood of the American people. It's still, he's in office for himself. He's not there for anybody else. I mean,
once again, that's a power move. I got power and I can do what I want to do. So
I write my own rules.
Yeah.
And they have clearly demonstrated that he can. He certainly can. When he said he was above the law, when he said I can stand in the middle of 5th Street and shoot someone and not get prosecuted, at this point, I believe him on that.
Yeah.
Because just the amount of things that he has blatantly gotten, I don't even know. But to take it a step further, I feel like this election is to save our democracy because of the continuous, blatant attempts to dismantle it in every way. So I feel like, yes, we definitely need him out for all of the reasons that you all stated, but to preserve the democracy that we as Americans hold dear, I think that it's important to rectify this right now as well. Another 4 years, I could very well see America headed towards another civil war.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this one, I feel would, in large part, be race baited. The last one, in large part, the last one was race baited, but I mean, in this one, I mean a true race war, in large part, black versus white.
Right.
Which is really unfortunate.
At least for the last election, it was just suspected, but now we've got proof that he has said things and dodged conversations about race and being affiliated with certain groups. Now there's more proof and more, I think people really are coming out of the woodworks supporting, whereas before it was kind of but now I think, so if he were to win again, that would kind of be their green light to just open the floodgates.
And really act a fool.
Yeah.
So it's very important that we go vote. Find out in your local communities where you can go vote or go to I believe it's vote.gov to find out more information about in your states, how to vote, where you need to go vote, how to register, and all of that stuff. Once again, that is vote.gov.
When is the last day for registration?
Tuesday, I believe.
What day?
I believe it's this Tuesday, the 13th, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. The 13th was rattling around in my mind. I'm thinking that. I think you're right.
She's right. It's the 13th.
Okay.
Definitely go check out our Facebook page. I'll post some information if you live in Lynchburg where you can go to vote. I know you just go to Kemper Street. It's a really easy process. We'll post all of that. So definitely check that out.
I voted this week, went to Kemper Street. It was really easy. There wasn't a line. It was the middle of the day. My husband mailed his in. He did the mail in. That was really easy. We sealed it up and sent it off. So no excuse. Go out and vote.
Oh, in Amherst County, they're voting at the courthouse. And I'll find out about Bedford and Campbell counties. So we'll do the surrounding counties in the Lynchburg area. Also, I had mentioned that my coworker had said that she was going to take people to the different polls. What do you all think about that?
Jaton, did you say you were doing that?
No, I'm gonna vote in person.
Oh.
I hadn't signed up to transport people. If I clean my car out, I might could. I think it is a great idea for those that don't have a way to get to the polls, or if they could be transported to vote early before Election Day. And sometimes I've noticed, especially when we have like bad weather on Election Day, or if it's like really cold, the turnout tends to be even lower. So some of these nice days that we have, if people would go ahead and vote early, it might help. I still do plan to vote in person. I just like the tradition of it, and the state gave us the day off, so I might as well do something.
And there's a lot of people on Facebook that I have seen lately that is volunteering to take people. So if you're on Facebook, and just be looking out for those that's volunteering to take you if you don't have a ride. It's a lot of people in the community are trying to make sure that you are able to get out of here and vote. So take advantage of it. You have no excuse.
Do you know do you know if the churches are, or any other organizations have a plan to help people? Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I know our local Democratic committee should be doing some things. I volunteered with them before, and they definitely transport it. So when I post the information about where to vote, I'll look up the information for transportation and the number that you could call in order to set that up.
See, I don't know if GLTC is offering free rides this year with all the stuff they've had going on with the unions. I know they've done it in the past, but they've had a little controversy going on here lately. So I'm not sure if they are doing free rides on Election Day or not. But if I find it, I'll post it under the video.
You know what, Jaton? Good point. I forgot we are in COVID. So, they may not be transported.
That's true. Yeah.
But I would definitely look up that information, and if it is available, we'll definitely post it. Any other thoughts?
I want to give a shameless plug for something, but I'll do it after we've finished this conversation about voting.
Okay. Well, if no one else has any comments, then we're going to go ahead and transition into our last couple of comments. I know you have to leave in 9 minutes, so.
I just want to tell everybody, if you have never checked out the candlelight, the Old City Cemetery candlelight tours, do so. They're amazing. I went to dress rehearsal last night, and I don't know when this episode will actually air. It'll probably be in the middle of the event. But the candlelight tours at the Old City Cemetery off of, I think it's 4th Street, they will be running every weekend until around the end of the month. I don't have the exact end date. But, and then because of COVID, they're going to do both a live presentation, but also they will be making a video available around the 23rd, I think it is, for purchase. And I want to say that Joshua Carter, I don't know if everybody knows, I know Alicia Deton and Stephanie know Joshua. Andrea, I'm not sure if you know him, but he's an up-and-coming director, filmmaker, everything else that you can imagine. He and his crew, all Black crew, or majority was Black crew, filmed the video for the Old City Cemetery. So I think that's amazing that we've got that going on here in little old Lynchburg. And for the really, really, really shameless plug, I wrote one of the storyline for Luigi Ferguson and Virginia Cabell Randolph, who were actual women in Lynchburg, who were among the first to vote in Lynchburg in 1920. When women got the right to vote. I wrote the storyline. I saw them last night. They are amazing. You can write the words, but it's the actors who bring these characters to life. They're amazing. So if you have an opportunity, check out Candlelight Tours at Old City Cemetery.
Yes, a shout out to Gary Stewart, his production company.
Yes.
Produced it.
Yes.
Again, Black owned. Yay.
Amen.
Well, Stephanie, any other lasting comments?
Nope, just go vote.
Go vote, vote, vote. What about you, Andrea?
Go vote, work on your mental health, protect your peace.
Yes. And Mr. Tan?
Go vote like your life depends on it.
Because it does.
Yes. 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 Agreed. Please, please, please go out and vote, y'all. All right. Well, this concludes this week's episode of Women's World. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.